Again, because it is indeed December 25th. Merry Christmas to those who celebrate Christmas. If you don't, then happy holidays. I hope you guys are spending your time with your families, safe and sound and all that great stuff. But we have ourselves what is a weird idea that I've been seeing a ton of Senators fans getting super upset about. So, without further ado, this comes mostly from Sean Simpson's Twitter account. He's a TSN guy. I think you kind of know who Sean Simpson is if you're watching this video. Morning host for TSN 1200, etc. He is hearing the Arizona Coyotes and the Ottawa Senators are talking. Derek Stepan is the name mentioned here, who has 1 year left of a cap hit at $6.5 million, but an actual salary of about $5 million. So the trade idea at its core is a swappage, potentially, between these two teams involving Derek Stepan. Now, Derek Stepan is an NHL veteran. The guy's been in the league for a while. He's 30 years old, making, as we said, $6 million on the AAV for one more season. However, the money is actually being paid out of pocket by the team is significantly less. He's a guy who is indeed on a different ballpark today than I guess he was a few years ago, because Derek Stepan for the New York Rangers fresh out of college was always a very consistent 40-50 guaranteed point player who spent a boatload of time in New York before he eventually made his way over to the Arizona Coyotes in a trade, which saw him get swapped over for, I believe it was a first-round pick. Yeah, it was that 7th overall pick, which was used to select Lias Andersson, who is now in LA. But Derek Stepan with the Coyotes was indeed still that capable 50-point guy in his first season, dropped off to 35 points in 72 games his next, and this most recent season saw him drop off to 28 points. He did have 5 points in 9 games in the postseason, however, which is a very good number because that Coyotes team was indeed pretty good in that playoff run, but right now, Derek Stepan is on an Arizona Coyotes team that a lot of people are saying, yep, these guys need to enter rebuild mode. They have so much money tied up in the guys, which is why we saw Oliver Ekman-Larsson on the trade block earlier this summer, which didn't actually end up amounting to anything, but the Coyotes still have all the players they have put in place. They still didn't acquire any draft picks so far. They still got rid of all the other stuff they had. This was a team that ended up getting some picks taken away from them because of illegal testing. They lost out on their first in 2020 because they used it to get Taylor Hall, who didn't even stick around. The first guy they actually did draft in the 2020 NHL entry draft, they had that pick renounced because the guy was, I'm not even going to fill in the blanks there. You know what happened with their first pick. But combined with all the stuff about their GM leaving and their GM not really doing all the right due diligence when it comes to going after Taylor Hall and having the owner having to do it instead, it's a weird situation in Arizona. So if they're in a position to go start rebuilding, now is the best time to do that. You don't have any picks. You have so much salary locked up in the guys that you've been trying to trade. And if a Derek Stepan, who is indeed in a position where, if you take a look at the cap hit right now, yes, he was already paid his signing bonuses. He is technically cheaper than what the AAV suggests, which is, oddly enough, a very Eugene Melnick-like kind of guy. Is there a possibility we can see a trade like this? And immediately my instinct after seeing these rumors was, okay, first off, if you want to go from this from the Ottawa Senators' point of view, what the Senators would be doing if they tried to acquire a Stepan would be trying to load up even more. We've been seeing this over the past few months. Alex Galchenyuk, you have Watson, you have Eric Goodbranson, you have Matt Murray, you have Evgeny Dadonov, you have all these guys that you've added onto your lineup, not to mention Tim Stützle, whom you really want to help you get over that hump in not being last in 2021 season. Derek Stepan would, in theory, help out because he is an NHL experienced guy, etc., who does know how to play the game, but I kind of looked at this and I was like, okay, if you're taking a look at this from the perspective of, okay, the Sens would be improving their lineup with a trade like this, where do you put a Derek Stepan then? Because if you play Derek Stepan on your first line, for example, is that really a good upgrade? Like, I mean, Colin White is currently listed as the first-line center, and Colin White is a guy, as noted by Graham Nichols over here, who has more 40-point seasons in the last 2 seasons than Derek Stepan. If you're taking a look at just production, then you could argue that Colin White is already more valuable than Derek Stepan. Furthermore to that point, if you get a Derek Stepan to come onto your lineup and play second line, then what happens to Tierney and Norris? If you get him to play third line, what happens to Norris and Batherson? If you get him to play anywhere else, what happens to Artem Anisimov? This Ottawa Senators team is already a team that has the pieces in place to look forward into the future and say, yes, we are building the core of the next generation. Tim Stützle's probably going to be the winger starting off on this lineup. I don't think he's going to play center right away. If they want to play him center, then go ahead, be my guest. But that's another name added to that list of Colin White, Chris Tierney, Josh Norris. You guys had the opportunity to get rid of Chris Tierney because he was a free agent, but you guys said no, you guys re-signed this guy. So from that perspective, it doesn't really make sense, in my opinion, to even suggest the idea of a Derek Stepan going over to Ottawa, unless you're giving up any of those other pieces, which we've known from the Senators because they want to build a cup-contending team sooner rather than later, they're not going to do. Because these guys are arguably going to be better in the long term. Some of them maybe even are better in the short term right now. So it's why I'm labeling this idea as a useless trade for the Ottawa Senators, because mostly this would be setting them backwards in terms of what they've been wanting to do. All the acquisitions they've made thus far, Matt Murray, Goodbranson, Watson, Galchenyuk, they're either getting rid of other guys that they know they don't really have a spot in their future, or they're just getting them for free. Galchenyuk, free agent pickup, that's a free guy right there. Dadonov, same thing. If the Sens really wanted to go out there and be a bro to the Arizona Coyotes and say, okay, us Ottawa guys, yeah, we have so many second-round picks in this year's draft. You guys, the Arizona Coyotes, I feel bad for you, man. You guys are lacking on those picks. So to do you a favor, here you go. Here's a second-round pick for Derek Stepan. You guys can retain the salary. You guys can do whatever you want, but you guys are saving money and you're also getting a draft pick. Sounds good? Sounds good. That's not the kind of move that Ottawa should be making at this point in their rebuild, I would think. You could say they're not even in a rebuild anymore because they've actually been in a very strong position in terms of improving their roster over the past few months. Unless you're acquiring a guy like Derek Stepan to play somewhere in your bottom six, away from the guys like the Stützles, the Dadonovs, the Colin Whites, the Brady Kachucks, etc. There really isn't a point in trading for a guy like this and using him in a spot where a younger guy who has a better future with the Senators long term would probably be instead. Like, I don't want to see Colin White's job get taken by Derek Stepan. No way. Let's see Colin White develop. Let's see Colin White be in a position to become better because we know he's got a long-term future here in Ottawa. Same could be said about the Josh Norrises and the Bathersons and the Browns and the Tim Stützles on the team too. I can go for hours talking about how this Ottawa Senators core, forward core at least, is looking towards being pretty good going into the long-term future. Not even talking about the Shane Pintos and all the other guys you have developing down there in your prospect system. So, for the Ottawa Senators, this trade idea makes no sense. For the Coyotes, it would be something that I would think they'd be begging to do. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really make enough sense for Ottawa, in my opinion, to even consider it actually happening, unless you trade away another guy that you probably would let Derek Stepan take the spot of in the lineup, that in which I don't really think there are too many players. And let alone other players that would actually make sense going back too. So, talk to me in the comments what you think about this idea over here. Would you be interested in seeing a Derek Stepan to Ottawa trade? I personally wouldn't because it doesn't really make sense in my opinion. But tell me in the comments below what you think. Also, stick around on this YouTube channel because at 6 p.m. PST we'll be doing a World Junior stream. Team USA, Team Russia. Let's get it, boys. Come back over here at 6 p.m. PST. Hang out. Let's talk hockey. Let's talk about the World Juniors. Let's watch this game together. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.